WWE Executive Chairman Vince McMahon has reportedly been making changes to WWE television shows remotely in recent weeks. Details on what changes they are. Cody Rhodes has challenged Brock Lesnar to a rematch after losing to Lesnar at Night of Champions. He's also explained why he didn't tap out in Saudi Arabia in their match this past weekend. We have brand new women's tag team champions. They were crowned on Raw last night. Ricochet and Shinsuke Nakamura have qualified for the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. Speaking of Money in the Bank, more qualifiers have been announced for next week's edition of Raw. Hulk Hogan has spoken about Roman Reigns' recent incredible reign as undisputed WWE Universal Champion. Rhea Ripley has discussed her reference and Dominic Mysterio's reference at Double or Nothing this past weekend for AEW. And Maxine Dupree has finally joined the Alpha Academy. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of World Wrestling Entertainment. Let's start off talking about Vince McMahon and the changes, the creative impact he may or may not be having on the WWE television product right now. Now, according to Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, many in WWE have told Fightful they're in a wait-and-see mode after Vince McMahon made his presence known and has made his presence known since WrestleMania and has been making regular changes to WWE shows remotely, but hasn't popped back up backstage. Now, in January 2022, according to Fightful Select, saw an all-time low in WWE morale, followed by it reaching a near high after Vince McMahon was out of the company. However, when McMahon forced his way back into WWE and appeared all WrestleMania weekend making changes, there were several on the roster upset with what they saw. The roster was assured repeatedly that Triple H was still in his role, but have been subject to late changes whenever Vince McMahon sees fit remotely. It was reiterated to Fightful when McMahon is there in person, which he hasn't been since WrestleMania week, but the changes were a lot heavier and had less reason to them. However, those that Fightful spoke to on the roster said that instead they hear that Vince McMahon calls in changes remotely and does it with heavy alterations. Still, there have been talent that have told Fightful they've had more flexibility in their promos of late than when Vince McMahon was present. Morale was particularly high after the European tour, which many told Fightful was the most fun they've ever been on. Those that Fightful have heard from say that things have improved significantly since Vince McMahon was around, but they're still on guard at the possibility that he could just charge back in and be backstage. However, several also believe that McMahon realized the chaos that just being backstage caused and has opted to work remotely since. So, what do you think? Have you noticed, in terms of watching the product after WrestleMania on Raw and SmackDown, have you noticed what you perceive to be Vince McMahon changes, Vince McMahon's fingerprints? What are your thoughts on all? Let me know, as always, in the comment section below. Now, Brock Lesnar versus Cody Rhodes, their feud appears to be far from over. Cody Rhodes, the American Nightmare, is a man on a mission, and his mission is to tame the beast once and for all. On last night's edition of Monday Night Raw, Rhodes came out to the ring with his arm in a heavy brace as he continued to sell the beatdown he received from Brock Lesnar this past Saturday. Rhodes reminded Lesnar that although their series score stood at 1 apiece, with Rhodes winning at Backlash and Lesnar at Night of Champions, he never actually tapped out to Lesnar's Kimura lock during their rematch in Saudi Arabia. Quote, "My contemporaries thought I was stupid to wrestle Brock Lesnar with one hand," Rhodes began. "They said I was crazy to not tap out, but there's a reason why I didn't tap out. I did not tap out because that's not the man I want to be. Years ago, sure, probably I would have tapped out." Rhodes proceeded to list about his upcoming schedule, including WWE live event dates, before challenging Lesnar to a rematch at any time and place. In doing so, Rhodes mocked Lesnar for being a part-timer and taking his annual vacation, while others, such as himself, continued to bust their behinds for the company. "Brock Lesnar, are you satisfied with this being done?" Rhodes asked. "I hope you're not, because consider this an open challenge to you. Hopefully, you have social media, cable, or something there in Saskatchewan, because I'm going to post my entire schedule sometimes this week. If I'm standing in a ring, I'm standing there ready to fight you, Brock Lesnar." In conclusion, Rhodes said Brock Lesnar is afraid of Cody Rhodes. As of this recording, Lesnar is not advertised for the July 1st Money in the Bank premium live event in London. However, those plans could potentially change in the coming weeks. So when do you think we're going to see this eventual Brock Lesnar versus Cody Rhodes rematch? And what did you think of his promo? Let me know your thoughts, as always, in the comment section below. Now we have brand new WWE Women's Tag Team Champions in Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler. Once again, we have new Women's Tag Team Champions as the dangerous duo of Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler won the titles this week. On Monday's edition of Raw, a fatal four-way tag team match was held to crown new Women's Tag Team Champions. In the end, Ronda Rousey and Baszler, who returned to television only 2 weeks ago after last wrestling at WrestleMania 39, prevailed. Following a late surge from Shotzi, Raquel Rodriguez's newest tag team partner, Baszler managed to distract the ballsy badass for just long enough. The baddest woman on the planet proceeded to catch her in an armbar, causing Shotzi to tap out immediately. With the victory, Baszler joined Asuka as the only other three-time women's tag team champion. Baszler's previous two title reigns and victories came alongside her former tag team partner Nia Jax. Rousey, meanwhile, captured the championship gold for the first time since dropping the SmackDown Women's Championship to Charlotte Flair last December. Baszler and Rousey's victory also meant that the women's tag team titles have changed hands on 3 occasions in 2023. The first title swap took place in February on the edition of Raw where Becky Lynch and Lita ended Damage Control's 114-day title reign. Thereafter, Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez captured the titles by defeating Lynch and Trish Stratus, who filled in for an injured Lita and proceeded to turn on Becky Lynch. Unfortunately, Morgan and Rodriguez's reign ended just as soon as it began after Morgan suffered a shoulder injury, forcing the champions to vacate their titles. Now we've got qualifiers for the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. On July 1st, WWE Money in the Bank will make a stop in London, England, and on Monday night's edition of Raw, it found its first entrant into the men's Money in the Bank ladder match, that being Ricochet. All he had to do was go through former Money in the Bank winner and WWE champion The Miz, and the A-lister didn't make it easy. During their back and forth singles match, The Miz pulled out all the stops, including connecting with both a Hurricane Runner and a springboard crossbody. But it wasn't enough in the end, as Ricochet was eventually able to land his breathtaking shooting star press to seal the victory. This will mark Ricochet's third appearance in the men's Money in the Bank ladder match, having first appeared in 2019 and then again in 2021. The Miz, on the other hand, was looking to punch his ticket to a fifth such match, and while he is a one-time winner, having successfully cashed in to defeat Randy Orton for the then WWE Championship, that was all the way back in 2010. Unfortunately, it wasn't to be, and now Ricochet will looking to make his third attempt the charm. The last time he held a singles gold was when he was the Intercontinental Champion as a member of the SmackDown brand, a title he held for 3 months until Gunther began his historic reign. The Money in the Bank qualifying matches are set to continue this week, both on Raw. Of course, that happened. Obviously, we'll get into that in just a second. And on Friday's edition of SmackDown. Up next for the men, LA Knight will take on Montez Ford. Again, that being on SmackDown. But another qualifier was former NXT champion Shinsuke Nakamura. After Ricochet put away The Miz to clinch the first spot in the match, Shinsuke Nakamura defeated Bronson Reed in a hard-fought bout on this week's edition of Raw to qualify for WWE's annual ladder match that guarantees superstars an impromptu shot at a title of their choosing. Nakamura needed as many as 3 Kinshasas to overcome Reed, knocking the big man out to the outside before hitting 2 more of his patented knee strikes to secure the pinfall victory. Later in the night, Nakamura told Raw Talk that he was en route to finally becoming a world champion in WWE, referencing his previous failed attempts to win the WWE Championship. WWE changed my life a lot, Nakamura admitted. This opportunity, Money in the Bank ladder match, is going to change my life again. So this is the first step to a world championship. I came to the WWE to be a world champion. I've never forgotten that. I will be a world champion anyhow to use Money in the Bank briefcase. As I mentioned, the Money in the Bank qualifier matches will continue this week on SmackDown, where LA Knight faces Montez Ford. Furthermore, Matt Riddle is likely to receive a qualifying match on next week's Raw against an unnamed opponent. The match was teased on this week's show following a backstage confrontation between Riddle and Intercontinental Champion Gunther. During the segment, Gunther urged Riddle to win the briefcase and attempt to cash it in against his title, a challenge that Riddle didn't appear to back down from. Gunther's Imperium stable also has been at odds with the trio of Riddle and undisputed WWE Tag Team Champions Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Speaking of qualifying matches, other matches have been announced for next week's edition of Monday Night Raw. The road to Money in the Bank continues on next week's edition of The Red Brand in Hartford, Connecticut, where Becky Lynch will wrestle Sonya Deville in a qualifying match for the upcoming women's ladder match. Also on the show, Zoe Stark will square off against Natalya in another qualifying bout. The newly formed alliance of Stark and Trish Stratus has been in a heated rivalry with Lynch. After helping Stratus defeat Lynch at Night of Champions, Stark once again attacked the man on this week's show following a promo segment where she explained her actions in Saudi Arabia. As such, if both Stark and Lynch qualify for the Money in the Bank ladder match, there is a built-in rivalry that could add more intrigue to the annual ladder match. Prior to these two qualifying bouts next Monday, the first entrant in the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match will be decided on SmackDown this Friday as Zelina Vega faces off against Lacey Evans. While Vega is fresh off a series of losses to SmackDown Women's Champion Rhea Ripley and Asuka, Evans hasn't wrestled on television since the March 24 edition of SmackDown, where she teamed up with Xia Li against Natalya and Shotzi. As such, fans believe the match could go either way, with no clear-cut favourite to prevail. Besides Lynch versus DeVille and Stark versus Natalya, no other matches or segments have been confirmed for next week's Raw. However, as mentioned, WWE has teased that possibility of Riddle receiving a possible qualifying match. Now, Hulk Hogan has spoken about Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is closing in on possible title reign in length of Hulk Hogan's legendary title reign in the 1980s. When the most recognizable face in pro wrestling history speaks glowingly of you, you ought to be doing something right, I guess. Hulk Hogan has been singing the praises of Roman Reigns during his recent media tour, going as far to say that he would have drawn major money with the tribal chief had they locked horns in their physical primes. In another recent interview with Forbes, Hogan credited Reigns for excelling at the intangible aspects of wrestling and for possessing the feel and instinct needed to tell stories at a high level. Quote, I've got a soft spot in my heart for Roman, but I think he's one of the only main event guys that's keeping the art form alive, Hogan said. He can go out there and wing it. He doesn't need a writer to tell him what to say. I can tell by the way he wrestles. He's not following some choreographed pattern, Hogan continued. He is really good with placement and physicality and knowing where he is at all of the times in the ring. And it's like when I wrestled, I never, ever talked about my match. I would see guys sit in the back room and talk for an hour about a 5-minute match. And I'd go to Andre. I said, what are we doing tonight? Andre responded, don't worry. I said, okay, that's how I was raised and that's how I see it in Roman. While admitting that he has a soft spot for Reigns, and it comes from his friendship with the Anoa'i family, Hogan recounted a story from his years on the road when he started drinking wine and eating barbecue with nearly 50 Samoans. I woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning, sleeping in the front yard with a bunch of his Samoan brothers. During that time, they took a picture of me holding Roman Reigns, and he was like 2 or 3 years old. Now, that photo of Hogan holding a young Reigns has been doing the rounds on social media, of course, for several years. Now, if you watched Double or Nothing this past weekend, you would have seen a reference to Dominic Mysterio and also Rhea Ripley. In typical Platinum Max Caster fashion, the fan favorite wrestler / MC dropped some fresh verses during the Acclaim's entrance at AEW Double or Nothing on Sunday night, as the team of himself, Anthony Bowens and Billy Gunn approached the ring to challenge the House of Black for the AEW World Trios Championships. Caster trash-talked their opponents. For the diss track, the master of the mic drop gave a shout-out to some top WWE superstars associated with Buddy Matthews, and they have responded on social media. Previously known as Buddy Murphy in WWE, the Australian wrestler is currently dating Judgment Day member and SmackDown Women's Champion Rhea Ripley. Caster referenced their relationship with his signature Freestyle during the annual pay-per-view, as well as Ripley's on-screen romance with Dominic Mysterio. He said, quote, Buddy acts all ominous when he's getting cucked by a kid named Dominic. The crowd then proceeded to chant, who's your mammy at Matthews. In response, the Eradicator addressed the lyrics with a simple tweet with the following morning. She said, quote, hey Dominic, we're over in two companies. With wrestling fans acknowledging Mammy and Dom Dom all over the wrestling world, she's certainly not wrong. So what did you think of the freestyle and what did you think of Rhea Ripley's response? Finally, Maxine Dupree is officially a member of the Alpha Academy. Maxine Dupree has seemingly morphed from fashionista managing models to a traditional pro wrestling ballet. On last night's edition of Raw, Dupree swapped her typical high-end fashion model outfit for an Alpha Academy shirt as she accompanied Otis and Chad Gable to the ring for their match against Imperium. Furthermore, during the match, Dupree shared a fist bump with Gable, which seemed to suggest that Gable was no longer at odds with the former Maximum Male Models member. Prior to the match, Gable confirmed that Dupree has officially joined Alpha Academy. It's time Imperium gets taught a free lesson or two, courtesy of the new and improved Alpha Academy, said Gable. That's Otis, Gable, and make it 3 with Maxine Dupree. Midway through the match, Dupree was chased to the back by Valhalla of the Viking Raiders, who has been in a rivalry with Alpha Academy in recent weeks. With Dupree hinting at her in-ring debut, WWE could possibly be preparing for a 6-person match pitting Alpha Academy and Dupree versus the Viking Raiders and Valhalla. Dupree being named the valet of Alpha Academy shouldn't come as much of a surprise. Last week, Mansoir deleted Dupree from the contact list on his phone, not to mention stopped following his former ally across social media. The Triple M member was reacting to Dupree accompanying the Alpha Academy during their match against the Viking Raiders the prior week, albeit in the corner of Otis and not as an official valet. Dupree first started recruiting Otis back in February, suggesting in various segments that Otis would be the perfect new addition to her modeling agency. However, Gable and Dupree butted heads for months and were seemingly prepared to fight for the services of Otis. Ultimately, Dupree convinced Gable that she had Otis's best interests at heart, giving him reason to add a third member to Alpha Academy. It's worth highlighting that WWE is presenting the new trio as babyfaces. So there you go, guys. It's the latest WWE news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Remember, you can join the WN365 roster by clicking that join button, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right-hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.